what does the lender look for? We just went over the credit history is a huge impact on the loan approval. They're also going to look at the type and length of your employment. They look for a 2-year history. They're going to look at your gross monthly income, your liquid assets, your liabilities, and your debts. So the mortgage loan originator is going to help you get through paperwork. We can read this to you or send you a list. We're going to break it down for you and help you with your specific situations, but paperwork we need, what the underwriter is going to look for. We've gotten to know kind of what they're going to come back and ask for later, so we may ask for things that aren't on that list, knowing that we've seen it before and we know they're gonna what their next question is going to be throughout the process. So they are looking for a minimum 2 years consecutive employment. It says no gaps on here. However, life happens, things happen. We have families, we have other things that come up, medical issues. So in the event, it's not as though you can't get a mortgage if you have a gap in your employment and you haven't been working fully for the past 2 years. In that case, that's when I would come in and say, let you know what to prepare as far as like a letter of explanation. They just want to know why there was gaps in employment. It could have been you were in between jobs for a short period of time. Income from part-time jobs or seasonal employment, they want at least a 2-year history on that, and they're pretty strict with the 2 years for the second job employment. When you first submit your application right up front, we're going to ask you for 1 month of pay stubs. That's so that they can look at your gross income for the year. You want to make sure all your year-to-date info is on those pay stubs. They're going to ask you for 2 years W-2s or 1099s, depending on how you're employed. Self-employment, we're going to get 2 years of your federal business and personal tax returns, and a signed year-to-date profit and loss statement. Social Security and disability income, it's going to be a copy of your award letter, 1099s. And then in some cases, we may ask you to show us that those are being deposited into an account somewhere. Child support and alimony, they're going to want a copy of the divorce decree, separation agreement, or child support award. And then they'd like to see at least 6 months of those payments going into an account. Generally, they ask for 12. I will tell you that. It's not going to change both screens, sorry. And then another role of an MLO is to help you determine the best product for you. We offer fixed rate, adjustable rates, to go over all of those with you. PMI, which I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that. I don't think we've gone over it yet. If you have less than 20% down, the loan can require PMI insurance. That's another additional monthly cost that has to go into the calculations. We have an awesome first-time home buyer program. We have a Smart Start program. With our Smart Start, it's done a little bit differently than other places that I'm hearing and that I personally have experienced. With our Smart Start, it's fully underwritten. So initially, you are going to pay your credit report fee. There is also what we call a Smart Start fee. The Smart Start fee goes back to you at closing. So there is that initial piece where we do collect $200 for the pre-approval letter, but it does come back to you at closing. And as was mentioned previously, we don't charge any fees for our loans. The Smart Start fee is just that piece that you'll get credited back at closing. The pre-approval letter we issue is good for 90 days. And it tells the realtors that you're working with that you are a qualified borrower. Again, it's been fully underwritten and you'll be approved for a specific amount. You'll know how much that you can borrow right off the bat. Again, we're confirming your ability to qualify for the mortgage. And it will strengthen your position against other buyers as a serious candidate to purchase the property because you have a fully committed pre-approval letter. The Smart Start program, I jumped ahead and told you about that before this one, sorry. Does anyone have any questions about the initial role of a MLO?
So where you had a liquid assets on the first screen before this, is that where you said 6 months and you need to have like 6 to 12 months?
So
Is that like what you have in savings?
So the liquid assets would be any of your bank accounts. We're going to ask you for 2 months of bank and investment statements.
Okay.
So when you're asked for that, you're going to want to include everything, even like a 401k if you have a retirement plan, those types of funds.
Okay, but isn't there a certain amount of, like if they're looking for savings, like you can't just say, like say you hit the lottery
That's a great thing to say. We'll keep trying.
and you just deposit $10,000 in the bank. Is it true that when they look at your bank account, they'd rather see that you built that up instead of just throwing money in an account just before you purchase?
So they're going to ask if there's a large deposit, they're going to ask you to verify where those funds came from.
Mhm.
I don't know what the
There's a
trigger amount is.
They like a 60-day seasoning.
Right.
So if the money's been sitting there for 60 days, we don't know anything about
Right.
how it got
Okay.
there. But if it's less than 60 days, then we need to know where it is.
And part of that reason, just because sometimes I just like to know why we ask for these things. Part of that is we want to see if it's a loan. You know, maybe it didn't show up private loan from someone. We would want to see if it is a loan that's acceptable, but we would need to see the terms so that we can add that payment in as part of your liability, part of one of your monthly expenses. So that's usually the predominant reason why we ask for that, what the source of the deposit is.
And how do you look at gifts, like gift amounts?
So if you're being gifted funds, we would get a letter, notarized a gift affidavit. And in some cases, if it's a family buying a home from a family member or from someone else, you can also do a gift of equity. In some cases, obviously, those are case by case.
Okay. And as far as the gift, they have to be a specific sort of donor. So it's typically like a family member. Who else did we look at?
A family member typically.
Yeah, it's typically a family member, like a close family member.
Okay.
It's basically them saying it's not a private loan.
Yeah.
Can't be a friend. Usually has to have some form of a relation.
Okay.
Okay.
They also will use down payment assistance from different entities, like, for example, Brockton. You can apply if you're a first home buyer, you can apply for grant from Brockton. You have to go through their classes and qualify, but you can get a closing cost grant from them, and that can be used toward that.
Okay.
So,
In the back.
I don't know if you familiar like school money, but if I have like a social money, if I want to deposit, do I have to need a gift for that or?
I can answer that question.
What did she say? What's
She might what about different types. There are alternate bank accounts called Susus, Parters, Juntas. It depends. Every different culture has their own method of what they call it. How that works is it's a pool of people, like 20 people.
Yeah.
And everybody contributes, say, $200 a month to that pool. And then every 20th, let's say it's 100 a week. Every 20th week, one person gets the money. So as long as somebody's keeping a ledger, it's well documented, it's tracked, it can be used as money towards your down payment or your closing costs.
So if I have that money, can I just deposit that? You're gonna ask me for like.
We'd have to paper trail. We would have to see all the records and, yeah, so we would have to see the ledger, how it's tracked, the terms of it. So it's involved, but yes, it's, Susus and Parters are permitted. We just have to, we're gonna ask for one. Another question.
Can you talk a little bit about income limitations for first-time home buyers?
Income limitations for first time home.
I don't know if there's a limitation.
Medium incomes and things like that for your first-time home buyer.
Oh, for the
Oh,
first time home
okay.
buyer
I'm
program.
not sure we're gonna cover that, but
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go into that a little bit more later. But basically for the first time home buyer programs, they do, you can get an additional savings on your closing costs, which I'll go into that. If you're equal to or at, less than the median income limit in your area, in your town, it's at less than, equal to or less than 115% of the median income, which is a lot of money. I mean, you could still have a good earning and still fall well under that guideline. I brought some examples of what some of the towns' maps are. We would actually allow, instead of your $500 closing cost certificate, we would actually give you up to $1,000 for that as well. But I will go into that when I go over the first time home buyer program.
Sum it up, your MLO is the person that will get the answers if they don't know them. They'll reach out and they'll be able to run through and decipher all of the mortgage things that you're going through and paperwork.